as a third COVID-19 wave rages on. We have this and more stories lined up for you. I am Akisa Wandera. Our sign language interpreter is Meresha Owiti. Our top stories tonight.
I can tell you for sure, despite all these olabalus, the number of magistrates who have called me to say you have freed us from these shackles of Sexual Offences Act.
Tonight, interviews to fill the position of Chief Justice kick off, with past court rulings coming back to haunt High Court Judge Said Chitembwe. All eyes on the Judicial Service Commission in the search for the next CJ. So, who sits on the all-important panel tasked with finding the head of the Kenyan judiciary?
The timetable remains as we had decided earlier.
Plus, the government announces that the Term 3 school reopening date remains unchanged despite COVID-19 containment measures currently in place.
Ramadhani tunatumia wakati mwingi usiku kuliko mchana. Yaani akitufanyia saa 6 atakuwa bora zaidi.
And Muslim faithful prepare to start the holy month of Ramadan, with one group set to begin Tuesday and another starting on Wednesday. Thank you for joining us. Interviews for the position of Chief Justice began today, with High Court Judge Said Chitembwe being the first one before the recruitment panel. And a past ruling in which Chitembwe released a previously convicted defilement suspect came back to haunt him as the Judicial Service Commission put him to task over his legal and professional competence for the top judiciary job. KTN senior political reporter Murimi Mwangi begins our broadcast tonight.
Day one of the physical interviews to pick retired Chief Justice David Maraga's successor. And first on the Judicial Service Commission's hot seat was High Court Judge Said Juma Chitembwe.
If I'm to be appointed as the CJ, I'm not saying that I will dig a new foundation. I will build on what others have done, with the sole purpose of improving the institution.
A March 2016 ruling at the High Court in which Chitembwe freed a man accused of defiling a minor came back to haunt the judge. At the time of the said defilement, the girl was aged 17, an act for which a Kilifi Principal Magistrate Court jailed the man for 20 years. But the suspect, in an appeal before Justice Chitembwe, told the court that the girl, though a minor, had always carried herself as an adult and would in fact frequently visit his house, even in the presence of his siblings. Chitembwe released the suspect, ruling that he was not entirely to blame.
If you go back, the complainant, I will be very honest, the proceedings before the magistrate court, that complainant said, I went to this man's house to have sex and I go home. That's what that lady said.
What I'm asking basically is, when you find that there's conflict between what you feel or what the beliefs you hold as a person and the law, how do you treat that scenario?
On reflection, I think I did my best to deal with the case at hand. And I can tell you for sure, despite all these olabalus, the number of magistrates who have called me to say you have freed us from these shackles of Sexual Offences Act.
Before joining the judiciary, Chitembwe, then as the National Social Security Fund Corporation Secretary, had been arrested, charged and acquitted for the offense of abuse of office in 2008 over alleged misinformation of the NSSF board to make payments of over 8 million shillings on a contentious property. The judge getting emotional over memories of his ordeal on the wrong side of the law.
People have to be prosecuted. That is the mandate of the DPP. But as you sit as a judicial officer, you should be able to sift out what has been brought for serving other purposes and what has been genuinely brought as a court case.
In what instances, if you were Chief Justice and the head of that court, in what instances would you encourage your colleagues in that court to exercise this activism?
That activism is necessary to solve a problem, because the activism is not generated within. It's the law, is the cases which are filed there, which needs interpretation.
As the chairperson of the commission and also head of judiciary, do you see any place for strategic engagement, both formal and informal?
There will be the formal appointment. You go there, you meet the president. I believe the president also would like to meet the judiciary, because it's also, if the judiciary is not working, businessmen, money is held in the courts. He is also feeling it. So he would also want to see the problems of the judiciary.
With a strict focus on legal track record, life experiences, and administrative competence, the Maraga succession race edges closer to the finish line, with Professor Kamori Mbote next on the grilling line. Muremi Mwangi, KTN News, in Nairobi.
Right, for the next 2 weeks, the Judicial Service Commission will remain on the spotlight, as it is the interviewing panel searching for the country's next Chief Justice. The decision by the Commission will determine who will become the next head of the Kenyan judiciary. But who exactly has that monumental task? KTN senior reporter Rita Tinina looks at the membership of the Commission and what is at stake.
I've been asked the question, what type of a leader are you coming?
Day one down, 9 to go, as the Judicial Service Commission vets candidates for the judiciary's top job. The start of the vetting process was preceded by several intrigues. A row has been simmering over who should chair the panel, following a petition to have Justice Philomena Mwilu chair the commission by virtue of being the acting Chief Justice and not the interim Vice Chair, Professor Olive Mugenda. The High Court on Monday ruled that the petition filed by Tolfin Nafula before a date to the acting Chief Justice Philomena Mwilu to appoint a bench to hear the matter.
As we did last time, remember when the Chief Justice is not there, then he is not there. So last time we had the Vice Chair chairing the interviews, and that is what is going to happen this time.
Mwilu was on the other end facing a petition seeking to have her barred from sitting in the panel. One of the candidates, Senior Counsel Philip Murgor, cited conflict of interest, arguing Mwilu would lean towards Fred Ngatia, who was her lawyer during her vetting for the position of Judge of the Court of Appeal in 2012. Two other petitions sought to have Professor Olive Mugenda and Patrick Gishohi removed from the commission on grounds that Professor Mugenda chairs the board of the Kenyatta University Teaching, Referral and Research Hospital and cannot hold two public offices. The petition against Patrick Gishohi's participation argued that his tenure as a member of the Public Service Commission, which he represents in the JSC, has expired.
So all the commissioners will sit at the interviews.
With the start of the vetting, the concerns, it appears, are on the back burner, and now the commission can perform its task. The JSC has 9 members and a secretary. The judiciary has 4 representatives to the commission. Deputy Chief Justice Philomena Mwilu represents the Supreme Court. The Court of Appeal picked Justice Mohamed Warsame to the commission. Judges of the High Court are represented at the commission by Justice David Majanja. Magistrates elected Evelyn Olwande to sit on their behalf at the JSC. Then there is Attorney General Paul Kihara. The LSK chose Macharia Njeru, an advocate of the High Court, as its representative to the commission. Acting Vice Chairperson of the Commission, who chairs the vetting process, Professor Olive Mugenda, was nominated to sit in the Commission by President Uhuru Kenyatta as a representative of members of the public. Felix Koskei, too, is a representative of members of the public, also picked by the President. Patrick Gishohi sits at the Commission on behalf of the Public Service Commission. And the Chief Registrar of the Judiciary, Anna Madi, is the Commission's Secretary. The vetting of the 10 candidates for the position of CJ will conclude on the 23rd of this month. The JSC will then have 7 days to come up with a decision. With 9 members, the commission requires a majority of 5 to break a tie. After the JSC arrives at a conclusion, it will have 7 days to inform the candidates before forwarding a name to the president, who will in turn forward the name to Parliament for vetting. Rita Tinina, KTN News.
Tomorrow will be yet another day for another candidate before the Judicial Service Commission. Will be bringing you all the updates and the proceedings live here on KTN News. Well, away from that, the Term 3 school calendar will remain unaltered. Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha has announced this, saying it is informed by the seemingly flattening COVID-19 curve. The CES has also defended the integrity of the ongoing KCSE exams, saying the strategies put in place ensured no leakage at all. KTN's Alano Chanda has the details.
Parents and learners can now breathe a sigh of relief after Education CS Professor George Magoha lifted the cloud of confusion and anxiety that had engulfed them surrounding the uncertainty of the school reopening dates. The dates remain unchanged owing to what the CS referred to as flattening of the COVID-19 infection curve.
Since it looks like the pandemic is starting to flatten, there may be no need for now for me to summon the education stakeholders to look afresh at the timetable. So the timetable remains as we had decided earlier.
Away from the tradition, third term now commences on 10th of May and will last for 10 weeks, with learners taking a 3-day break between 3rd and 7th of June. Term 3 will end on 17th of July. The ongoing Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education KCSE examination exercise has been marred by claims of cheating. Teachers and learners in different examination centers have been nabbed, but Magoha insists the integrity of the exercise is above reproach.
This examination has not leaked. You have noticed how careful the government has been during this morning, where we have looked at each and every container containing the test papers. That is the way it should be done.
Meanwhile, Higher Education PS Simon Nabukwesi has warned learners who misbehaved during the national examination, including students from Anesta Boys Secondary School in Nakuru County, who sneaked into Precious Girls Secondary School, that they will pay for their mischief.
Itafahamika kwamba walijihusisha na mambo ya uhaini, basi kama ilivyosemekana, kama ilivyowasilishwa, hawatapata zile stakabadhi ambazo tunaziita Certificate of Good Conduct hadi wakati ambapo watajirekebisha tabia na ihakikishwe kwamba wamejirekebisha, ndipo waweze kupata.
Alano Chanda, KTN News.
Now, the signing of the pipeline deal between Tanzania and Uganda is the latest setback in Kenya's plans to become a regional transport hub through the deployment of key infrastructure projects. As KTN business reporter Brenda Kerubo tells us, Kenya's key infrastructure projects seem to have stalled even as its neighbors enter into new logistical agreements. Take a look.
Putting pen to paper, Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni and Tanzania's new leader, Samia Suluhu Hassan, signed 3 accords that include an oil pipeline, a tariff and transportation agreement, and a shareholding agreement. The highlight of the deal is the construction of a $3.5 billion crude pipeline to help ship crude from fields in Hoima district, western Uganda, to the port of Tanga, Tanzania, for exports to international markets. Bilateral relations between the two countries at an all-time high, as Kenya remains on the sidelines.
This project will strengthen strategic partnership and cooperation between our two brotherly countries, and in addition, it will forge further the regional integration and people's interaction.
Uganda discovered crude reserves in the Albertine Rift Basin in the west of the country, near the border with the Democratic Republic of Congo in 2006. Government geologists estimated total reserves at 6 billion barrels. Initially, Kampala had agreed to ink a deal with Nairobi to construct a pipeline to transport the crude to international markets. But in March 2016, Tanzania and Uganda jointly announced plans to build a competing pipeline, the Uganda-Tanzania crude oil pipeline.
This would ensure petroleum self-sufficiency for the Lake Victoria Basin countries and those neighboring them for a period of 38 years based on the present consumption levels. This oil refinery would be owned jointly by the East African countries if they agreed to participate. So that was my original plan.
In the prospective agreement, Kenya was set to build an elaborate infrastructure network under the Northern Corridor that would have cut out Tanzania, with Kenya acting as the main port of entry. The infrastructure network was set to extend to the wider East African community through Uganda, onto Rwanda and Burundi, and into the DRC, with arteries edging towards Ethiopia and South Sudan in what created lapses. The project comprised of a road network, railway lines, maritime ports, inland waterways, and an oil pipeline linking landlocked Uganda and South Sudan to the port of Mombasa through Kenya. The pipeline was meant to serve Uganda, South Sudan, and Kenya, who were keen on pooling resources together to enable them exploit the precious commodity. Following the signing of the deal between Uganda and Tanzania, Kenya may have to go alone in the development of the Lamu-Lokichar crude oil pipeline to meet its ambitions of becoming an oil-producing nation. Beyond the pipeline, Kenya has already built its standard gauge railway up to Naivasha and still has plans of extending the network to Malaba, where the line will connect to Uganda and onward for Rwanda. Kigali has, however, opted to construct its own standard gauge railway, linking the country to Tanzania and Uganda. Though it would appear that Kenya has been cut out of key projects, Nairobi is still bent on going ahead with the Lamu Port South Sudan-Ethiopia transport LAPSET. Lamu's port 3 berths and container yards should be done by June 2021. Key concerns raised by Kenya's neighbors include the high cost of infrastructure, mainly due to land compensation and post-poll violence that has in the past led to landlocked Uganda to seek alternative routes for its precious cargo. Brenda Kirubu, KTN News.
Now, the African Union is now calling upon African countries to intensify partnerships and manufacturing capacity with an aim of combating reliance on foreign nations. The Director of Africa CDC, Dr. John Nkengasong, has said that there is need for Africa to manufacture its own vaccines with lessons from the pandemic in mind. Here is KTN Health and Science reporter Saad Hassan with more.
Africa is set to receive about 600 million doses of the Oxford-AstraZeneca vaccine. COVAX aims to deliver these shots to some 40 African countries this year. So far, about 60 million doses have been distributed across the continent, but achieving the 20% target is emerging as the real challenge.
Investing in sustainable and secure domestic manufacturing capacity and national regulatory authorities is critical for providing essential immunization programs and for building strong, resilient health systems against the inevitable health emergencies of the future.
Rwanda is leading from the front in setting up new channels of conversations with an aim of protecting its people.
In the past few weeks and maybe months, I had the opportunity to initiate contacts with different manufacturers of vaccines, specifically focusing on the messenger RNA technique used, say, by Moderna and Pfizer. And we have been involved in the discussions, and I have briefed a few colleagues on our continent, but we want to take this forward by discussing it with others.
Africa trails most other regions in the COVID-19 vaccination, with fewer than 13 million doses having been given in a continent of 1.3 billion people. The continent is being challenged to depend on its own capability.
Under license and in collaboration with current developers and manufacturers. The Aspen facility in South Africa, for example, will make some 220 million doses available following the African Vaccine Acquisition Task Team's agreement with Johnson & Johnson.
As the battle for equity continues across the globe, 486 Kenyans have been infected with COVID-19 in the last 24 hours, out of a sample size of 2,989. Hospital admissions stand at 1,645, while 248 are in intensive care. 48 are on ventilatory support and 169 are under supplemental oxygen. 20 more people have succumbed to the virus. Saida Hassan, KTN News.
Right, that story by Sada Hassan will be taking us on a short break, but stay with us here on KTN Prime. When we get back, we tell you why Kenyans will have to live with a biting shortage of blood in hospitals across the country and why this is happening. Stay with us.
Selena, don't get puzzled. She's my twin. I shine your toilet and I bathroom. So, is your bathroom clean?
Yes!
Presenting the new Harpic bathroom cleaner. Compared to ordinary detergents, its thick formulation gives you superior cleaning and kills 99.9% of germs and viruses all around the bathroom. Blue
for the toilet.
And red
for the bathroom.
Harpic bathroom and toilet cleaner cleans and kills 99.9% of germs and viruses.
It's a very good evening, everyone.
Uefa Europa League group stage is back. This Thursday night, catch AEK Athens versus Leicester at 8:55 p.m. on Sports Live. Antwerp versus Tottenham at 8:55 p.m. on World Football. AC Milan versus Sparta Prague at 8:55 p.m. on Sports Arena.
For Ibrahimovic!
Arsenal versus Dundalk at 11 p.m. on World Football. AS Roma versus CSKA Sofia at 11 p.m. on Sports Focus. And Real Sociedad versus Napoli at 11 p.m. on Sports Life. Star times. Enjoy digital life.
Like every mother, I'm worried about dangerous insects, especially mosquitoes, which spread diseases like malaria to my loved ones. This year, I'm not afraid. I'm using Mortein Doom. Mortein Doom All Insect Killer provides protection in seconds. Not even a single mosquito is spared, because even one mosquito bite can cause malaria. Mortein Doom provides protection in seconds.
Tips on fighting malaria. Use Mortein Doom insecticide regularly. Sleep under long-lasting insecticidal mosquito net. Clear blocked drains. Get rid of stagnant water. This message is brought to you by Mortein Doom.
Okay, thank you. Hi there. Selena, it's great seeing you getting so much value for your money.
Well, it's important to save as much as you can.
You save everywhere, except for here. This is where you're throwing money down the drain.
How?
On these cleaning products.
Impossible.
Harpic 10X. While other cleaners flow away, Harpic 10X's viscous formula in only one round of application gives you a sparkling, clean toilet. Harpic, 10 times better cleaning than other cleaning products.
And great savings too.
It's your moment with your stories.
Made at home for your home. Because great stories start on DSTV.
The time has come to unveil a new era, an era that represents innovation, vision, inspiration, entertainment, information, and most of all, an era that represents you. We remain toe-to-toe in delivering news to you in an ever-evolving digital landscape on our favorite channel. Because as you change, we are changing with you. It's bolder, braver, and all-inclusive. The all-new Standard newspaper is still setting the standard with in-depth analysis and hard-hitting opinions that give you profound perspectives on issues that matter. With striking infographics and new magazines that make every day a day to read the Standard. We bring you the all-new Standard newspaper, setting the standard so you can make the day count. The Standard, Kenya's bold newspaper. We value your feedback and welcome any comments, queries, or complaints regarding our news content. You can get in touch with us on SMS 22155, call 0719 012 450, or you can send us a letter on Post Office Box 30080-00100, or deliver it to our offices at Standard Group Center, Mombasa Road, Nairobi.
Thank you for staying with us. You are watching KTN Prime. On to matters health now, and Kenyans will have to live with a biting shortage of blood in hospitals across the country for some time as the Kenya National Blood Transfusion Service races against time to revamp storage capacities in its centers across the country. Kevin Ogutu brings us the story of blood shortage, even as the transfusion service claims the blood collection in this quarter has more than doubled that of last quarter.
30-year-old Caroline Auma, a widow, leads me to her son's 4-month-old grave right behind her house. This is where 11-year-old Victor Ouma was laid to rest in December 2020.
Atere katito no yudo ka dakteche ogomo. Koro atere private, koro ka atere kuro to yud ni pime to yud ni remo rumo. Koro ka remo rumo to aduogo kode anyiewo ne yath. Yath remo go. Abiro kode dala kae. Koro namiye yedhe go, to yedhe go naneno mana ka polo ne medore.
In September last year, she took him to Ahero Sub-County Hospital for a blood transfusion, but 2 months later, the boy became sick again. This time round, there was no blood, and they were referred to Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Teaching and Referral Hospital. But there was no blood in Nyanza's largest public hospital.
Koro remo ne onge, wabet kwarito remo. Koro nyiswa ni wadhi dala. Koro remo duogo dala kae, dwe mar 12. Ma abudho kode dala kae, emo thoe.
Her 16-year-old daughter could have suffered the same fate. Now a mother of a 5-month-old infant, it took the intervention of a child protection volunteer, Jacqueline Atieno, to save the minor who sat the just concluded KCPE exams. With the doctors in Kisumu on strike, she was taken to Vihiga. At Kisumu Regional Blood Transfusion Center, the staff are busy with their work. However, the empty trays in this cold room is an indication that it is working well below its capacity.
For the past 1 month, it has been a challenge for us to get blood. We've been relying on relative replacement, but sometimes we go out. We were going to Maseno University to collect blood, and also we organized blood donation at JOTRH.
At the time of this interview, the facility had only 72 units of blood.
As much as corona is with us, the sickness or accidents or maternal mortality does not stop.
In many cases, it leads to death. Death of people who have been in road accidents and you cannot transfuse them. Death of women who are pregnant or are in childbirth and they need blood and you can't transfuse them. Those are the kind of deaths. And also children and adults who have low blood levels due to poor nutrition, and you need to give them emergency replacement of blood.
Tuwe na ile tabia ama culture ya kuwa tunatoa damu kila baada ya muda, because kila tukitoa damu itakuwa sasa ni kama unajisaidia wewe mwenyewe, kwa sababu haujui nini itatokea kesho ama mtu wako. But muhimu pia tunaweza kufanya vipi ili tutengeze zile sehemu ambazo hizi damu zinawekwa, kwa sababu utapata hizi sehemu pia huwa zina changamoto nyingi, na ni kwa sababu ya ile ufadhili aidha kutoka kwa serikali ama hata watu wa kibinafsi. Nafikiri ni muhimu tuanze kuiweka katika ile mipangilio yetu.
Dr. Nduku Kilonzo, the director, Kenya National Blood Transfusion Services, told KTN News that they are revamping storage capacities in terms of fridges and freezers in all the regional centers. She also said that renovations are ongoing to address the infrastructural challenges that have been there in the past. KNBTS has been engaging counties in terms of areas of support since transfusion is a county function. Kevin Ogutu, KTN News.
And still on matters health, medical care in Kenya is not cheap. And with the third wave of COVID-19 currently ravaging the country, finding a hospital bed is a daunting task for many people seeking treatment for various ailments. This has led to the emergence of home-based medical care as an alternative means of aiding the country's stretched healthcare system. So how does it work? KTN's Timothy Otieno explains.
Edwin Kiprop is about to begin his shift for the day. It usually starts at the hospital's pharmacy, where he picks up essential medical supplies needed for his assignment. Yes. Edwin is a nurse, and he's based at the Healthgate Hospital in Eastleigh, Nairobi. It's one of the health facilities in the city which offers constant home-based care for its patients. So, Edwin kicks off a short journey which will lead him here to his first patient of the week. 38-year-old Fatuma Abdikadir was recently discharged from hospital. She had been admitted battling COVID-19. This will be the third checkup since Fatuma left hospital. Despite the fact that the patient has tested negative for COVID-19, the medical nurse is not taking any chances. As Edwin prepares, we notice that Fatuma is deep in thought. This bed at her home's living room is where she has been nursing herself back to health for the last 2 weeks.
Manake mahali nimefika ilikuwa mbali sana. Nimepisha mlango ya kifo. Mungu amesema rudi. Wakati yako bado.
First, Edwin checks his patient's blood pressure and heart rate, and the diagnosis is relayed to the patient on the spot.
Una oxygen yako kwa level iko sawa. Pulse rate iko sawa. Lakini pressure iko chini kidogo. So utakuencourage kunywa a lot of fluid sawa. Okay. Kidogo ndio pressure iende juu.
This has become an increasingly common mode of treatment for hospitals across the country, which are often stretched due to COVID-19 admissions. According to Dr. Mohamed Abdi, the owner of the Healthgate Hospital, home-based medical care not only helps relieve the facility of the pressure of having many patients to deal with, it is also cost-effective for the patients.
That patient is sleeping in his own bed, is staying at his own house, is consuming his own food, although prescribed, and is intermittently getting some medical support, psychosocial support from the medical personnel. So the cost in that aspect reduces compared to when a patient is admitted into one of the...
Hapa nyumbani saizi hakuna kitu ambacho na...
Sasa anichache kitu. Sasa anichache kitu. Jua ashanichache kila kitu nikiwa kwa hospitali. Ile siku anakuja ashaandikiwa zao.
The path to recovery is often not an easy one. But medical experts believe that the recovery process is often accelerated if one receives medical attention at home as opposed to at a hospital ward. It's an analogy which Edwin believes has worked well with all his patients.
Nyumbani, client environment ya client ako peke yake, hospitali. Kwa hospitali, ukiona hospitali, client anaweza kuwa na anaona mgonjwa mwingine mwenye ako severe heal kabisa. So anaona hao clients wenye ako na oxygen wengi. So anaanza kuwa na hiyo anxiety kabisa. So akiwa nyumbani ako peke yake, that's why ana improve.
Fatuma was admitted with COVID-19 for 9 days in the month of March, 7 of which she was under the use of medical oxygen. Her treatment at home costs no more than 3,000 shillings per month, compared to the 10,000 shillings she would have spent while in hospital.
Patients who need home care, most of the times are those patients who are chronically ill or have diseases that they live with.
Even though home-based care does not require constant monitoring by a medic, its recommendation can only come from a medical expert, and only in those cases where the patient is not in a critical state. Home-based care is common across the country. At the Nyatike COVID-19 isolation unit in the county of Migori, a 300-bed facility has not had any patients since it was set up 6 months ago. Over the last 7 days, the Ministry of Health has recorded 4,912 COVID-19 recoveries. Close to half of these cases have been recorded from the home-based care program. Caregivers like Edwin check on their various patients at home at least 3 times every week.
Wananiuliza kwa simu naendelea vipi na nilikuwa na meza dawa yangu. Ni kama sasa ni simu kila kitu. Na kukuja baada ya siku 3 mara moja.
With the country's largest referral hospital scaling down operations last month due to COVID-19, many patients with less critical illnesses have had to opt for home treatment methods, gaining traction across the country. Timothy Otieno, KTN News.
This recipe is brought to you by Jogoo Maize Flour, a product of Unga Limited. Get an aerial decoder at 999 shillings plus 1 month free classic bouquet and satellite dish at 2,699 shillings plus 1 month free smart bouquet.
Star Times. Enjoy digital life.
With Panadol's Optizorb formula, the tablet gently breaks down in the stomach, quickly absorbs, and starts providing pain relief in 15 minutes. For fast and effective pain relief that you can trust, try Panadol Advance. This has been Medifax for Panadol.
Business Today is a hub for small businesses. We tell the stories of success, of failure, and the lessons that we have learned from small businesses in Kenya.
Experts discuss and analyze the latest business and finance news from across the country and the world.
Because we know these matters are important to you, we take a deep dive to go to the movers and the shakers of the market to bring you matters that matter to you in a way that matters to you.
On Business Today, we not only tell you about what's happening on the local scene, we also take you to the international stage and help you connect the dots and understand what this means back home.
And all through it, you know, we go to school, study hard, get the much-deserved grades, and celebrate our graduation. Then reality hits us. We get to the job market and we simply don't know where to start off. Thankfully, by visiting jobs.standardmedia.co.ke, your next career breakthrough could be a click away. Get the best in career advice, employment opportunities, internships, and part-time jobs. Give your career the much-needed lift on jobs.standardmedia.co.ke or get SMS alerts by signing up on our website at 5 shillings only.
Right, let's now get into business news. The shilling has started showing signs of recovery as it continues to appreciate against international currencies. If sustained, a stronger shilling will ease the cost of imports, rippling through to consumers. But what exactly is driving the shift?
Shilling has been making a steady growth against the US dollar for over a week now, gaining from 109 shillings and 35 cents to $1 on 1st of April to 107 shillings and 28 cents on the 12th of April. On the 2nd of April, the IMF approved 33 billion shillings, which was released on the 6th, and since the disbursement, our foreign exchange reserve went up by 82 billion shillings. This is a recovery from the adverse effects COVID-19 pandemic had on Kenya's reserves of foreign currencies due to the poor inflow of tourist receipts.
It has to do with the infrastructure bond that was highly oversubscribed by about 140%, and that attracted in quite a bit of dollars. But there's also that second narrative that you've just posed on the IMF disbursement hitting the central bank and contributing to the dollar reserve. So I think those two could be acting together to create what we are seeing right now.
So, how does the strength of the shilling affect us?
The importers, you know, that businessman who's trying to import a car from Japan, the textbook seller who's trying to import books, the pharmaceutical company that's trying to get drugs from abroad, those importers tend to get favored, to be on the winning side. On the losing side, it will be on exporters. This is your tea farmer, your coffee farmer, your flour farmer, or even that recipient of diaspora remittances. They will be on the losing side.
Nakip Kimboy, KTN News.
Now, ride-hailing drivers under the umbrella Kenya Digital Taxi Self-Regulation have given digital app owners 30 days to harmonize prices or they will switch off the applications. Draft regulations by the National Transport and Safety Authority (NTSA) include a proposal to cap commissions at 15%. The proposed regulations also prohibit operators from levying on charging any of the fees above the commission, both for drivers and riders.
Following the signing of this agreement, we hereby direct all our members in the following towns, namely Nairobi, Mombasa, Nakuru, Kisumu, and Nyeri, as follows. 1, that we hereby issue 30 days notice to all defined apps that we shall be switching off and deleting all those apps from our phones at the end of the 30 days.
Now, food safety is becoming a key concern for most Kenyans, with reports of the sale of contaminated products being sold on the market. The latest concerns revolve around meat, with a report by UK-based World Animal Protection revealing that up to 60% of meat consumed through local supermarkets could be contaminated due to the high usage of antibiotics in animal rearing. So how does contamination happen? Take a look.
According to the report, samples collected from 6 counties showed that most meat in supermarkets serving urban areas is contaminated with bacteria such as E. coli. So how exactly does this happen? The first vulnerability for contamination is at the farm level, where the farmers fail to observe the withdrawal period for drugs administered to animals, leaving the meat with antimicrobial residues. Next, the slaughterhouse practices expose the meat to contamination by handlers failing to wear personal protective equipment like gloves, headgear, and boots. At the retail level, in our supermarkets, there is improper handling of the meat, especially poor refrigeration practices, and also failing to wear PPEs. And finally, at the consumer level, many people fail to properly handle the meat and in a hygienic fashion. Also, improper cooking is a channel of getting contaminated meat into your system.
Back to tech news. Smartphone manufacturer Xiaomi has launched its much-awaited Redmi Note 10 series in the Kenyan market. With the Note 10's entry, the company is seeking to challenge competition with 2 variants of the series, the Redmi Note 10 and the Redmi Note 10 Pro.
The Redmi Note 9 series alone has sold more than 37 million units. And in total, we've sold more than 200 million Redmi Note devices. But these figures aren't just mere numbers. They represent more than 200 million experiences, adventures, and moments. Ladies and gentlemen, challenge your boundaries. So that's a sneak peek. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, everyone, let's welcome, drum rolls, the Redmi Note 10 Pro.
Introducing Ushindi Cream Bar Soap. It foams well, is gentle on skin and hands, and cleans your clothes and dishes well too. Available in 1 kg and 800 gram bars and 175 gram tablets. Also available in all your favorite variants. Ushindi, a quality product from Pwani Oil Products Limited. Wholesale buyer of farm produce looking for constant and reliable supply of produce. Introducing Vuna, the wholesale marketplace for fresh produce. A joint project by Standard Group's Farm Kenya in partnership with Agid. With the Vuna Market, you can say goodbye to uncertainties of procuring produce in bulk. Vuna Market connects wholesale buyers to a network of verified farmers working through reliable bulking centers countrywide with the benefit of standard weights, measures, and packaging, as well as transparent pricing for agricultural commodities that can be viewed at www.vuna.co.ke. Download the Vuna app for free today from the Google Play Store to have constant access to a consistent and transparent marketplace at the palm of your hand. And if you are a farmer looking to supply your produce at competitive prices, you can get in touch with the closest bulking center near you by emailing us on farmkenya@standardmedia.co.ke. Farm Kenya, working to secure your growth.
Kuimarisha Kenya ni jukumu la Farm Kenya.
Your moment with your stories. Made at home for your home. Because great stories start on DSTV.
Panadol Extra, now with new Optizorb technology to fight multiple tough pains with 3 times more pain-relieving medicine in the first 30 minutes when you need it most. Seeing them support themselves makes any pain worth it. If symptoms persist, seek medical advice.
Week in the Financial Standard. Kenya's top banks, Equity and KCB Bank, fight for the top spot in the region's financial industry. Citon's Chief Investment Officer Edwin Dande clears the air on the multi-billion investment firm's plans. Africa's success story M-Pesa plans to take on leading global fintech players such as Visa and PayPal with cross-border electronic payments. Also, find out why Kenya's dream of cashing petrodollars is slowly fading. Grab a copy of this week's Financial Standard magazine pullout in the Standard newspaper and let's make business sense.
A very good evening to you. Let's now take a look at what is happening in the world of sports. My name is Robinson Okere. Football Kenya Federation has appointed Charles Okere as the new Harambe Stylist coach, taking over from David Ouma, who parted ways with the federation. Until his appointment, Okere served as the assistant to Robert Matano at Tusker FC. He will be assisted by Godfrey Oduor, who is KCB assistant coach, and Mildred Cheche, who until her appointment was part of the KCB technical bench. Now, the World Rally Championship drivers must brace themselves for a bruising yet fascinating safari rally in Kenya. The deputy clerk of the course, Naziri Yakub, says while Kenyan drivers may seem to know the terrain a bit better, that advantage will be wiped out as the sleeping warrior around Elementator is awakened by the noises.
Behind our wonderful vehicles here is actually called the Sleeping Warrior. The profile we're looking at right now actually looks like a sleeping warrior. You can see the chin, the forehead. So that is the name that this area has been given. They have a lodge there as well, Sleeping Warrior Lodge. It's a very important landmark. And the second very important landmark in terms of the Ramsar Society, I believe they protect birds, flora and fauna, is Lake Elementaita. It's a very important flamingo nesting site. The rally is not going anywhere near the nesting sites, thankfully. But yes, so we have Lake Elementaita and we have Sleeping Warrior. So good landmarks for us. And more than that, I think the Soisambu or the Soisambu Conservancy stages are very representative of what a safari rally should be. And it's also very representative of the image that the current crop of drivers have of safari in Kenya. I'm praying that it's a wet rally. Safari, Soisambu should be wet. That's what we want. I don't think we can put too much faith in the weather as for now. As you can see, clear blue skies, completely scattered clouds.
Now, Nairobi-based Kenya Volleyball Federation National League teams took part in their first COVID-19 vaccination exercise at the Kasarani Gymnasium in Nairobi. The exercise, organized by Kenya Volleyball Federation, the Ministry of Sports, and the Ministry of Health, saw 11 teams vaccinated with the hope of going back to the pitch soon.
Himiza sana kwa wachezaji, kila mtu ajifanyie ile physical fitness, ndio tukirudi tuchukulie kutoka mahali tulikuwa tumefika. Tena naomba Wakenya wote, ni mzuri tujitolee, tufanye vile serikali inasema, ndio at least ikiweza kufunguliwa tutakuwa tumerudisha hii ugonjwa chini.
We understand the pandemic we are in that has forced the government to put us on hold on all disciplines, whether it's football, basketball, rugby, all sports are affected. We've come to take the jab to show a sign of commitment to the government that we really want to get back on the fields and improve the talent that the country has.
Let's get to the Premier League now. Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta says his side's win against Sheffield United in the English Premier League will give them a boost ahead of their second leg Europa League return match.
I'm really happy with the performance, obviously the results, but with the way we played. We scored some really nice goals as well, and we controlled the game the way we wanted. and we play at a high level, I think. The last thing we need is another attacking midfielder or winger with another issue, because we have enough of that.
Yeah, and he's playing so well for you. And Martinelli also had a problem with the ankle, or is that settled down, or you don't know yet?
Yeah, it was an ankle. He twisted it when he landed, and it was pretty sore, but he's a tough boy. No, it's not about that. He's having really good performances. Today he had it, and on top of that, he put 2 goals away.
And this really sets you up for Thursday. This is an ideal preparation, I would think.
This is the ideal preparation. It's a clean sheet. We needed it because it was a long run without a clean sheet. And for the stability of the team and the spirit, I think it's great before Thursday.
Well, that is where we call it tonight, right here on KTN Sports. But I will be seeing you on KTN News at 10:30 p.m. on the FKF Review Show with Cedric Musumba and Roger Sistemi. And we'll be talking to Tusker FC coach, that is Robert Matano.
Right, you are watching KTN Prime. Thank you for staying with us. Now, the holy month of Ramadan begins tomorrow, and Muslim faithful all over the world are expected to start fasting. Some will begin on Wednesday, depending on the sighting of the moon. This is the second year that Ramadan is happening during the COVID-19 global pandemic. Here's KTN's Tobias Chanji with this year's Ramadan preparations.
This is the second year running that Muslims will be observing the holy month of Ramadan under strict COVID-19 containment measures. In Mombasa, things are easy as compared to last year when the coastal county was under lockdown.
Naomba yani Ramadhani hii Mwenyezi Mungu atuweke hai na uzima, yani iwe nyepesi, isiwe kama Ramadhani iliyopita. Isiwe na lockdown. Tuwe na kusali tarawih angalau masaa kiwa saini saa 4 mwisho, atufanyie saa 5 ama saa 6 tupate kufanya ibada kwa raha. Na Ramadhani tunatumia wakati mwingi usiku kuliko mchana.
The current situation now forcing Muslim clerics to employ new ways of worshipping.
Tutasali sala za usiku mapema kama saa 2, na hizi sala za tarawih ambazo zamani tulikuwa tukianza saa 3:30, tutakuwa tukianza saa 2:15, by saa 3:30 tutaweza kumaliza. Na pia tunawaomba maimamu wote ile sehemu ambayo wameruhusiwa, tafadhalini fateni maagizo ya serikali, wasije watu pengine wakacheleweshwa kwenye misikiti na wakashikwa kwa ajili ya kafyu. Nyinyi mtakuwa mmesababisha.
In Meru, like in other places across the country, mosques have to observe strict measures put in place by the Ministry of Health to curb the spread of COVID-19. These including allowing only less than a third of worshippers in the mosque at a time.
So, together with that, we have COVID protocols which are being observed just as we enter the mosque. We have the hand washing points. After that, we have the registration ongoing. And after the registration, we have the temperature taking. And the other protocol which is in action is the social distancing of 1.5 meters.
In the capital, Nairobi, one of the 5 counties under lockdown, it is a reprieve for about 6,000 families that received relief food from a community-based organization, Muslim for Muslim. Each food package that targets the less fortunate is worth 4,000 shillings.
As you all know, Muslim for Muslim has been there for 4 years, since 2017, where we started this initiative to help our Muslim brothers who are less fortunate to get their daily bread, inshallah.
Na kwa sasa katika hili janga la corona, mambo yamekuwa mazito zaidi, watu wamefutwa makazi na kuna hali ambazo ni ngumu sana katika vitongoji vya Nairobi na pia pahali pengine.
The holy month of Ramadan entails fasting famously known as Saum, which is among 5 pillars of Islam, and it is a time for spiritual reflection, self-improvement, and heightened devotion and worship. The fast or Saum begins at dawn and ends at sunset. And we, from the Standard Media Group, wish all Muslims Ramadan Kareem. Tobias Chanji, KTN News, Mombasa County.
All right, definitely a Ramadan Kareem to all our Muslim brothers and sisters. Well, I want us now to look at a story that has continued to cause a lot of worry and concern in the public tonight. An oxygen crisis in the country continues to bite, and patients are losing their lives while in search of this precious commodity. The demand for medical oxygen has seen COVID-19 patients, as well as others suffering from different ailments, compete for the little available supply. Tonight, we put a human face to this crisis that continues to threaten lives. Take a look. An oxygen cylinder and a number of pipes. This is the life 22-year-old Brilliant Wangoi has known for the past 12 months. A cesarean section operation gone wrong left her dependent on medical oxygen. She literally hangs on to this constant supply for dear life.
Date 25 nilijifungua through CS. Hapo ndo nilianza kuugua wakati mtu anapewa ile time ya kurecover after kujifungua. Nilikaa for 2 weeks bila kufanya kazi. Venye nilianza kufanya kazi, nika-realize nikifanya kitu kidogo na nachoka na anza kuhema. Niko admitted already Masimisha. Akasema nikidischargiwa, nikuwe discharge. Na kama tumepata oxygen concentrator. Ati juu I need oxygen. Yani siwezi kaa, yani mapafu yangu hawezi pumua mwenyewe. Sasa nda discharge tu kama niko nayo kwa nyumba.
The presence of this oxygen cylinder smack in the middle of this one-room house that Brilliant shares with her grandmother and her 1-year-old son in Bondeni, Nakuru County, is not the biggest of her worries. The price of this precious commodity is.
Hiyo cylinder ya kwanza tulikuwa tuna refill na 1600, which ilikuwa kwa siku sijui tuna refill mara ngapi. Ilikuwa inaenda haraka. Mami kaona inamshinda, imekuwa expensive. Saizi hata siwezi kuambia mama kuna deni kiasi gani hapa. Nadia anaogopa kwenda kazini juu ana deni za watu. Alafu tena kwenye watu tunachukua oxygen tuko na deni.
The average cost of refilling an oxygen tank for home use is 1,300 shillings. However, a recent spike in demand has seen the prices double. For Brilliant, she needs 2,500 shillings daily to remain alive.
Imekuwa complicated. That hata mimi mwenyewe siwezi kuambia aswana atakuwa treated for what. Mimi ningependa tu mnisaidie. Valuations wanisaidie tu. Hizo kupata hizo vitu kama hiyo maziwa ya mtoto, mimi kupata chakula, dawa na oxygen. Sitaki hata pesa, nataka tu mtu anileteage ndio hiyo oxygen, ndio hiyo maziwa ya mtoto. Hivyo nita appreciate you at least life yangu, cause ukweli siwezi kwa promise nita recover kama nina stress hizo vitu. Naonaga hii oxygen ikiwa imefika kwa 0, naanza kupanic. Juu ikiisha, nashinda tutatoa 2,500.
Only one person works in this household, her grandmother. She sells tea, which doesn't make her much to meet the constant bills.
Hii mtungi kila siku. Ikifika kama saa hii, unanipigia simu. Ananiambia mtungi imeisha. Naambia, ai, imeisha na sina pesa. Nikiwa tu hapo kazini nauzaga chai kichinjio. Naambia watu mimi sijui nitafanya nini. Mtungi imeisha na sina pesa. Wananiambia shika hii inatosha. Naenda nanunua. Siku moja nikaambia msichana wangu nikitoka kichinjio, mimi kesho hii mtungi kiisha sitakuwa hapa, mimi naenda. Mimi natoroka. Akaniambia utoroki mama.
It's a high price to pay for a commodity many breathe freely every day, yet remains ever so rare for those who need it the most. Thanks to the raging third wave of the coronavirus pandemic, that has seen an acute shortage of medical oxygen countrywide, some have had to pay the ultimate price. Embu-based journalist Ruben Githinji was one such case. The 52-year-old's last dying days involved family and friends running around to secure him oxygen and an ICU bed to save his life. His wife, Purity Murage, remembers this all too vividly.
Nigonjeka on Saturday, tukashinda Saturday na Sunday. Sunday nikampeleka hospitali, county hospital, wakanituma referral general. Nikaenda General Hospital, akawekwa oxygen na akakaa kwa oxygen for a few days. Afterwards daktari akaniita akaniambia hakuna oxygen mzuri na anaendelea akiwezwa sababu oxygen ya General haifanyi. Sasa nikaambiwa nimtafute Nairobi hospitali, tukatafuta nyingi sana kwa government sikakosa kabisa. Tukaanza kutafuta private ikawa too expensive, but at long last tukapata Murang'a Hospital.
Ruben would later succumb to COVID-19. The crisis has left a trail of death in its wake, pain and more questions than answers in slightly more than a month. The third wave has seen a jump in the number of COVID-19 patients in need of oxygen. In March, for instance, the Ministry of Health reported that 68 patients were on oxygen. 40 days later, on April 11th, a total of 482 COVID patients were on oxygen, with the supply said to be limited.
We're having a problem with delivering oxygen to our patients, especially now with the resurgence, or should I say the so-called third wave of corona, which has put a lot of pressure on our oxygen supplies. So the demand is really outstripping the supply.
Statistics from the Ministry of Health also indicate that before the pandemic, the average demand for medical-grade oxygen was 410 tons. But as of March 2021, the demand went up to 880 tons, up from 560 tons in January this year.
From the simple lack of oxygen delivering to them. I want you to put this into perspective, Kisa. Typically, again, pre-COVID, most of the patients that we were giving oxygen, the maximum, in most cases, was 15 liters per minute. We give it in liters per minute. Mostly it was somewhere between 2 to 6 liters per minute, but for isolated patients, you would go to 15. So maybe an average of 5 liters per minute. Right now, we have patients in our ICUs who require flows as high as 60 to 70 liters every minute. That is 12 times what we have been having. So the plants we've had have been producing oxygen just enough for us to give 5, maybe 10 liters a minute. Now we need 12 times that.
Hospitals across the country are already overstretched. Last week, Kenyatta National Hospital suspended planned surgeries indefinitely following an acute shortage of medical oxygen.
A typical level 4 or level 3 hospital could have probably just had 1 cylinder, maybe 0. With some luck, they would have 2. As you go up, then you get more and more cylinders in the hospitals. Right now, the demand has become so big that this is just impossible for them to supply.
Kericho's Siloam Hospital has also asked other facilities not to refer COVID-19 patients without adequate oxygen supply in the ambulance.
Hospitals who are referring people to other hospitals, make sure you have enough oxygen in that vehicle bearing that patient to another facility. It is no need to release a patient from a facility with 1 small cylinder of oxygen. You need to put in what you estimate is enough to reach that patient to the facility.
In 2020, the government set up an oxygen task force, which, according to the Ministry of Health, has since identified issues of service, maintenance and operations, and piping as a requirement.
We are trying to play catch up. Yes, I agree with you. We should have probably, where we sit, we ask the question, how can we increase the supply and the access? So identification of these dormant plants that can be reactivated. A number of counties actually have taken up this, even going ahead to pipe this oxygen to the patient area where the patients need the oxygen. Because you remember I told you one other problem is how do you get the oxygen from where you've produced it to where the patient needs it.
As the struggle continues for those still hanging on like Brilliant, and while others grieve the death of their kin as a result of this crisis, all eyes remain on the Oxygen Task Force and the government at large and how fast they are able to turn the situation. Akisa Wandera, KTN News. Right, that there is a situation for a number of Kenyans, a story we continue to follow up on, already getting a lot of feedback here on the story of Brilliant. I'll just take a look at one or two. Gilbert Ocheng says, brilliant story there that has left me wondering what's the Kenyan government priorities? Politicians, so what do they gain by owning Kenya while Brilliant is suffering from lack of oxygen? I have another one here who says the oxygen story is no joke. And someone else here says, and I'll quickly take a look at that, stories like this should have come a bit earlier in the bulletin. Thank you for that feedback. For people to contribute, I feel very sorry for this little girl. Keep the comments coming. We'll be running the story of Brilliant perhaps tomorrow morning. But thank you for watching. This is where we call it a night here on KTN Prime. But of course, we'll continue to follow up that story, giving you all the details on the shortage of oxygen situation in the country as we put the government to task. And the Oxygen Task Force that was set up last year, was there any pre-planning? What are the results 1 year on? Has this caught us flat-footed? These are some of the answers that we will be seeking for you. Thank you for joining us here tonight. Let's take a look at what we'll be waking up to tomorrow morning on the Standard newspaper. Inside the tragic world of Sonko. That's the headline for tomorrow morning. Mike Mbuvi moved from a struggling land broker to a seat in the high table. He had it all, money, power and fame. Now he is fighting court cases and endearing himself to online fans. And they take, of course, an inside look into Mike Sonko's world. This and more stories land up on your new look Standard newspaper. Be sure to grab yourself a copy for the story of Mike Sonko and more others. That's how I wrap it up here. I'll be seeing you tomorrow night on the front row. I am Akisa Wandera. Robinson Okere comes in next with his panelists for the FKFPL show. Join us, him for that and more. Have a good night.
This is KTN News.